Fantastic.
Enough.
$1,500,000. That is the combined value of the 5 cars sitting behind me right now. I have one day, one road, one honest question. If I had to write one check today and drive one of these home permanently, which one would it be? Welcome back to UC Car Review. Today we are doing something I have wanted to do since starting this channel. A true, honest, back-to-back comparison of 5 of the greatest performance cars available to an American buyer in 2026. No categories, no separate review dates, no different road conditions. Same day, same road, same driver, same California mountain pass. 5 cars, one verdict. The 5 cars: Porsche 911 GT3 at $240,000. Mercedes AMG GT63 S at $250,000. BMW M5 Competition at $120,000. Chevrolet Corvette ZR1 at $210,000. And Aston Martin DB12 at $245,000. 5 completely different philosophies, 5 completely different characters, 5 completely different answers to the question of what a great performance car should be. I drove them in that order, and by the time I finished, one of them made me feel something I was not expecting, something I did not plan for, something that made the final decision completely clear. You need to hear how this day went. 7 a.m. The Porsche 911 GT3, first car of the day. I chose this one to go first deliberately because the GT3 is the standard against which everything else gets measured. It always has been, it always will be. Within the first 3 corners of the mountain road, the GT3 reminded me why this is true. The steering, hydraulically assisted, immediately communicative, told me exactly what the front tires were doing before my conscious mind had finished processing the corner. The naturally aspirated flat 6 climbed toward its 9,000 RPM redline, produced a sound that I have heard 100 times, and that still stops my thoughts completely every single time I hear it above 7,000 RPM. What the GT3 does on this mountain road is teach. Every corner reveals something about the driver: a late apex, an early throttle, a slightly imprecise braking point, and then immediately shows you what precision feels like. After 30 minutes in the GT3, I was driving better than when I started. The car had made me more skilled by asking more of me. That is not something most cars can do. That is not something most cars try to do. Score after car 1, the GT3 sets a benchmark that I was not sure anything else could match. Technically flawless, emotionally engaging, completely honest about the driver's capabilities in a way that is simultaneously humbling and motivating. 9 a.m. The Mercedes AMG GT63 S, and immediately, the contrast with the GT3 is so dramatic that it takes several corners to recalibrate completely. Where the GT3 whispers, the AMG shouts. Where the GT3 communicates, the AMG commands. The 831 horsepower V8, with the exhaust in Sport Plus mode, produces a sound that is not musical like the Porsche Flat 6. It is violent. It is the sound of barely contained energy finding every outlet available simultaneously. On a straight section of the mountain road, the AMG GT63 S accelerated past the speed at which I had been comfortable in the GT3 before I consciously decided to accelerate. The car simply went faster because I allowed it to. The 4-door configuration reveals itself as a genuine advantage on a mountain road in one specific way. The seating position and interior size give the driver a confidence in placing the car that the lower, more cockpit-like GT3 requires concentration to match. In the AMG, the road feels more visible. The car feels more planted. The experience is less about driver precision and more about driver will. You point this car at a corner with conviction, and it obeys with terrifying completeness. After car 2, the AMG GT63 S is faster than the GT3 in real-world conditions on this road. Not because it has more power, it does, but because the confidence it gives the driver allows higher corner speeds than the GT3's precision requirement. Different kind of fast, equally intoxicating for completely different reasons. 11 a.m. The BMW M5 Competition. And here is where the day became complicated, because the M5 did something that the GT3 and the AMG both failed to do. It made me forget I was on a test day. Within 10 minutes of driving the M5, I stopped thinking about the comparison. I stopped analyzing throttle response and steering weight and chassis balance. I just drove. The M5, with its 727 horsepower hybrid system, and its xDrive all-wheel drive, and its iDrive 9 interface playing exactly the music I wanted without me asking, created a bubble of driving pleasure that required zero effort to sustain. It was simply enjoyable, continuously, without interruption. The GT3 makes you better. The AMG makes you feel invincible. The M5 makes you happy. And happy on a long day of driving is the most sustainable of the three states. The mountain corners came and went with a satisfying rhythm. Never terrifying, never boring, always engaging at exactly the right intensity for someone who has already driven two harder cars and has two more to go. After car 3, the M5 is the most livable car of the 5. Not the most exciting, not the most capable at its limit, the most enjoyable across the widest range of conditions and driver states. For someone who drives every day, that quality is worth more than any lap time. The M5 also costs $120,000, less than half the price of the next cheapest car in this comparison. That fact does not leave you easily. 1 p.m. The Corvette ZR1. And the moment this engine started, the 1,250 horsepower flat-plane crank supercharged V8 settling into its idle, the entire character of the day changed. Every car before this one is European. Every car before this one carries the weight of European automotive tradition, the precision of Porsche, the aggression of AMG, the sophistication of BMW. The Corvette ZR1 carries none of that weight. It carries something else entirely. It carries the American conviction that more is always better and that anyone who disagrees simply lacks ambition. On the mountain road, the ZR1 was the fastest car of the 5. Not by a small margin, by a margin that would be uncomfortable to specify precisely. The 1,250 horsepower, deployed through rear-wheel drive without all-wheel drive assistance, required the most driver skill of any car in this comparison. Every corner demanded complete attention. Every throttle application required judgment. The ZR1 does not drive itself. It requires the driver to drive it. And in return for that requirement, it delivers an experience that the European cars, for all their refinement, cannot replicate. After car 4, the ZR1 is the most American car I have ever driven. That is both its greatest strength and its most significant characteristic. It does not try to be European. It does not try to be refined. It tries to be extraordinary, and it is, completely, 1,250 horsepower of extraordinary American conviction. 3 p.m. The Aston Martin DB12, the last car of the day. The sun lower now, the light golden, the mountain road familiar from 4 previous drives. I was tired. Not physically. 5 drive sessions across one mountain pass is not physically demanding. Emotionally tired. 4 extraordinary cars had each delivered their version of the answer, and I had not yet found the one that was simply right. The DB12 started with the kind of V8 sound that after a day of flat-six Porsche and V8, AMG, and hybrid BMW and supercharged Corvette still made me pause before engaging drive. There is something in the DB12's exhaust note at startup that is different from every other V8 on this road today. Less aggressive, more considered, an engine note that suggests confidence rather than declaration. And then I drove it. And something happened that I am going to tell you about in Part 7. Because what happened in the DB12 on the final drive of this day was not something I planned for, not something I expected, and not something that any specification sheet or performance number predicted. It was the most surprising 30 minutes I have experienced in 11 years of reviewing cars. And it answered the question I started this day with completely, immediately, and without any doubt remaining. I want to tell you exactly what happened at 4:30 p.m. on the final descent of this mountain in the Aston Martin DB12. Because I have been trying to find the right words since it happened, and I have decided that the only right words are the honest ones. I was descending the mountain road for the 5th time. The road was familiar. My body knew every corner. My hands knew every input required. And in the DB12 on that familiar road, something shifted. The car stopped being a test subject. It stopped being a comparison point. It became a conversation between me and the road and the machine, conducted in a language that I had not heard clearly in any of the 4 cars before it. The DB12 steering told me things about the road surface that I had not noticed in the same corners 4 times previously. The throttle response, that 0.11-second twin-turbo reply, allowed me to place power with a precision that the Corvette's drama and the AMG's force, and even the GT3's clinical accuracy had not produced in exactly this way. And the sound, at 65,000 RPM descending a California mountain in a British supercar as the sun dropped behind the hills, produced something in me that I was not prepared for. I pulled over at the viewpoint. I sat on the hood. I looked at the valley below. And I understood that the answer to the question I started this day with was not the fastest car, not the most powerful car, not the most technically accomplished car, and not the most American car. It was the car that made me forget I was testing anything at all. The car that turned a professional evaluation into a personal experience. The car that reminded me why I started reviewing cars 11 years ago. Here is my honest, complete, final verdict on all 5 cars, and then the answer to the question this entire day was built around. The Porsche 911 GT3 is the greatest driver's car in this comparison. If your primary purpose is circuit driving and maximum mechanical engagement, the GT3 is the correct answer. It is not the most powerful, it is the most precise, and precision in a performance car is the highest form of excellence. The Mercedes AMG GT63 S is the most impressive car in this comparison. One car doing more things at a higher level than any other vehicle I have reviewed in this price range. 4 doors, 831 horsepower, technology a decade ahead of competitors, and the ability to be a luxury sedan on Monday and a racetrack weapon on Saturday. If versatility is the requirement, the AMG wins. The BMW M5 Competition is the smartest purchase in this comparison. $120,000 for 727 horsepower, hybrid efficiency, the finest daily driving experience of the 5, and the technology that justifies every dollar of its price. If value is the priority, the M5 is not a compromise. It is the answer. The Corvette ZR1 is the most American car I have ever driven. 1,250 horsepower of conviction that the internal combustion engine has not finished its story. If national pride and raw performance are your requirements, nothing at this price does what the ZR1 does. And the Aston Martin D B12 is the car I am buying. Not because it beats the others on any single metric. Not because it is the fastest or the most powerful or the best value or the most technologically advanced. Because it is the only car of the 5 that, after a full day of extraordinary machines, made me stop thinking about cars and start feeling something about driving. That quality, the ability to transform evaluation into experience, assessment into emotion, is the rarest thing in automotive engineering. And it is worth every one of its $245,000. The question you need to ask yourself is not which car is best. It is which car is best for you. And the answer to that question is different for every person reading this, which is exactly why all 5 of these cars deserve to exist simultaneously. UC Car Review, 1 day. 5 supercars, 1 honest American buyer, 1 answer. Subscribe, because next week we find out if the car I chose can survive a week of real life. The school run test is coming.